Okay, so I'm Chuck Winters. I'm the board president of the Soldotna Chamber of Commerce.
I'm Greg Stein. I'm the board president of the Kenai Chamber of Commerce.
Greg and I would like to welcome all of you to this narrowing the field candidate debate. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most consequential elections in the state's history. A little housekeeping first. Go ahead. Exits.
All right, everybody, take a look around. Notice where your nearest exits are. If you're extra skinny, you might be able to fit out one of the windows on the side. And then we're supposed to muster in the parking lot when you're out there. So there you go.
We'd also like to thank the Soldotna Chamber staffs and the Kenai Chamber staffs for organizing and putting this together. Right now, I'd like to have you take a look at the printed material that you have in front of you. And while you do that, we're going to introduce the candidates. Let's see. And raise your hand when I call your name. Dave Bronson. We don't have a flag.
Yeah, with pocket square. Pretty radical.
That'll work. Good.
What's that?
Do the pledge. That's fine.
For which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. You know, normally there's a flag in here. I don't know where it's at. Yeah, there's one on my shoulder. Next.
Adam Crum.
Edna DeVries.
Meda, DeWitt.
Michael Gilbert.
Matt Heilala.
Shelley Hughes.
Lesil McGuire.
And Bill Walker.
All right, so we're going to explain a little bit about how this is going to work this evening. To begin with, what was going to be 10 candidates, but is now 9, will participate in the forum.
The audience will then vote on their first ballot. Select one candidate and put that ballot in the bucket. The bucket's at the end of the rows here and should be manned by chamber staff.
After that, we'll have a very quick intermission while the votes are counted.
The 5 candidates with the top votes will move on to the debate.
And then we'll have a second vote following the debate.
And with that being said, again, we welcome all of you to this debate, this gubernatorial forum, and I think the moderators are ready. That would be Nick Sorrell and Rebecca Logan.
Good evening. I just want to say thank you to everyone who registered and came out to be a part of this amazing event. My name is Nick Sorrell. We'll get you. So, still working on the mic over there for Rebecca. While they're getting that mic working quickly, I know they just kind of did a rundown, but what I want to explain how the night works, obviously we have the forum portion of tonight's event, and then after that first round of voting, 5 candidates will move on to a second half of the night, which is a debate portion of the evening. In the interest of fairness, for the forum portion, we have a random and impartial cup, and I'll pull their names out of that, and they will each get one question to begin the forum, and they'll all answer the same question. They'll have 90 seconds to answer. Then once they've all answered, we will start in reverse order with the second question, and once they've all concluded answering the second forum question, then that's when you guys will be directed to fill out your ballots. Those will be collected. We'll tabulate those, and then we'll move on to the debate portion, and I'll explain that. Are we on what now?
Yes, Rebecca Logan.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So, without further ado, we're going to begin tonight's forum. So I just want to say again, thank you to all of you for attending, and a big thank you to all of our candidates who responded and showed up here to be a part of this. So Rebecca, go ahead, take it away.
Are you going to pull a
Oh yeah, I
name,
probably
pull a
should do
name out of
that.
the
I got to
hat?
reach in. So our first question will go to Lesil McGuire.
Okay, so we'll start with Lesil and move down this way.
Oh, I'll pull the next one.
Oh, you will. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. So, here's a great way to start for you to talk to us about how you would like to be remembered. If you are elected governor, what will be the one measurable accomplishment that you want Alaskans to point to 4 years from now and say that changed the future of our state?
Great question. First of all, thank you for having me here tonight. I love being on the peninsula. I would like to have left a legacy of a gas line. It is something that I've worked on when I first got elected in 2000 throughout now. I put a lot of meaningful work into creating the Alaska Gas Line Development Authority. It will set us free. I think it's important for jobs and our future and for our kids. Am I out of time? Okay, sorry. And to tag on to that, when you look at the peninsula, the gas itself here has been what set us free. And I think about what that legacy could be for the rest of us. We need to get through the blockade that we have of the governor not getting along with the legislature or the legislature not getting along with the governor and move that forward.
All right, next one is Adam Crum.
Well, it's good to be home. I'm a Peninsula kid. Born in Homer, grew up in Anchor Point, so it's good to be back here. You know, what I'd like to say after 4 years is people go, wow, we actually built something. Because we haven't built anything of significance in 50 years. 50 years. The last major road we built was 1975, the Dalton Highway. Private sector did that and handed it to the state. The largest engineering project, private engineering in the world at the time, was the Trans-Alaska Pipeline. What have we done since? We are going to have built some stuff. We're going to give our kids hope, a reason to stay in Alaska. We're going to use public financing tools that we're reticent to do. I love Dave Ramsey. His thing about family budgeting is great for no debt. That's not how you run government. You can actually use bonds, can actually secure cheap money to build things forward, because government has two purposes. It's to protect property rights and to build infrastructure the private sector can't. So we're going to tackle things that we need to do as Alaska. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to actually unleash our energy, because it's not just the gas line. That would be fantastic. It'll take years to build, but it's near-term stuff. Our grid is tapped out. We need to actually build a grid and a transmission system that actually allows us for new power projects to come online. So after 4 years, it's going to be, we built stuff. We made Alaska better. We're going to be stronger going into the future.
Thank you. Next candidate, Dave Bronson. And Rebecca, can you just give the question one more time for those listening on the radio? Because we are also broadcasting live on KSRM tonight.
You bet. We're looking for what it would be the one measurable accomplishment you want Alaskans to point to 4 years from now and say that changed the future of our state.
Well, thanks for this. Thanks for this forum, by the way. It's too late to do just one thing. It just is. Certainly the gas line is absolutely of great importance to the entire state. It changes our revenue picture indefinitely. But we've got structural problems that we really have got to focus on. We've got the Ambler Road. We've got the West Susitna Access Road. We've got a fisheries that seems to be in permanent decline. That has got to be managed, and Article 8 of the Constitution compels us to do that. And then we've got a marine highway system that's very degraded, and nearly 100,000 Alaskans down there. We don't see it much up here unless you're in Kodiak, but that's a real important thing. So to be honest with you, we can't do one thing. I don't want to pick on your question, Rebecca, but we've got to do a lot of things. We got to do them quickly because the state is in decline. Adam talked on it. We've got to start moving forward, and we've got to turn a lot of corners here. We've got to turn a lot of things around in its infrastructure, because building creates jobs and creates future revenue. That's what we have to do. And the money is available, both federally and through ADA. We have access, and we need to exercise on all those funds to get these projects going forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave. Would you please pass the mic forward to Mr. Gilbert for the next answer? And again, for those listening on the radio, the question that the candidates are now answering is, if you are elected governor, what will be the one measurable accomplishment you want Alaskans to point to 4 years from now and say, that changed the future of our state? Michael.
Well, first of all, I believe that it should be the elimination of child support and alimony laws, 50-50 custody of the child, as long as it's not a physical detriment to the child's well-being. And other than that, I have been working on a plan to create a mega project for a road from Nome to Fairbanks, and then also from Seward to down through man-made islands, similar to how the state of Florida has them, and do island hopping essentially with a highway all the way to Washington State. And I believe that that could increase the infrastructure and lower prices in the economy up here. As we all know, the gas today in Homer is $5.24 a gallon, and in Anchor Point it's $5.19 a gallon. The lowest place around here that we saw was $4.69. That was in the Neilchick. And we're also going to be building a port in Homer and also in Nome. And we believe that these ports could contribute to the liquid natural gas pipeline being built if we can also get a gas refinery and export facility built to increase the revenue in the state, along with a second oil pipeline to do the same. And these facilities can help transport that oil to lower 48 to help refill the strategic petroleum reserve and also bring revenue to the state, increasing the amount of the permanent fund dividend long term and securing long-term projects for Alaskans and the jobs in the economy. And with that said, I yield my time to the next candidate.
That's perfect timing.
Thank you, Michael. Fantastically timed. All right, our next answer will come from Matt Heilala. Pass the mic over there. Thank you very much. Go ahead, Matt.
Okay. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the Chamber. And hometown boy, actually our graduation party, my wife and I, Stacy, 1988 in this building. So this is a real pleasure for me to be before you. So what do I want to be remembered for, or my term to be remembered for? I want to be remembered that it was not about me. I understood what was at stake, and that's the next generation. We have to focus to execute. And we have to take advantage of this opportunity that's before us. All of these things, there's so much opportunity in energy and natural resource development. And in 1988, when I graduated here, there was over 2 million barrels of oil pumping down that pipeline. We are now just barely over 400,000 barrels. That is a shame. That is a lack of action. It's not a lack of ideas, a lack of bold talking. It's a lack of action. I like St. Francis of Assisi. Speak loudly the gospel, if necessary, use words. And I also like, it's not about me. Much can be accomplished as long as you don't mind who gets the credit. I don't care if you have to put a Bill Wilikowski plaque on that gas line. It doesn't matter. Praise them. We're going to do this together. I want to be a unifier because the next generation is worth it.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate your answer. Our next answer will come from former Governor Bill Walker. Go ahead and pass the mic over. And again, for those listening on radio, if you've just tuned in, the question our candidates are answering right now is, if you are elected governor, what will be the one measurable accomplishment you want Alaskans to point to 4 years from now and say, that changed the future of our state? Go ahead.
Well, clear to the gas line. There's no question about that. I remember when the first barrel of oil came into Valdez 49 years ago last month, and we started talking about the gas line. Don Gilman came over from Kenai, and away we went from there, and it's been quite a ride. And my bride wasn't my bride at that point. She asked me, how long before the gas line? And I said, about another year. Well, we're celebrating our 49th anniversary this year, and she asked me the other day, I said, about another year. I think it's going to happen. So I am encouraged what's happening. I follow it very closely. I've been careful not to weigh in. I don't think we have one governor at a time. It doesn't help to have another governor weigh in and say what he should be doing and whatnot. But, I listened today to the testimony, and Mayor Machicki was right. We don't need to panic, but we need to get it done. My strength, and I met with the president of Glenfarne a couple of days ago, Glenfarne, Alaska, and I explained to him, I will do everything I can as governor to help this project. My strength are two areas in the pipeline, and I've done this in the past. One is putting together a consortium. It's got to be a consortium. Glenfarne alone is not going to do this project. They just can't. No company alone can do this project. It's got to be a consortium, and we've done that in the past. The other is the market. My concern is that if it just comes part way and stops at Big Lake and ties into Instar and doesn't come all the way, the price of gas will be very high, and there'll be no activity on the peninsula because you need to have that activity, a market for it, and the export piece is the market for additional exploration on the peninsula.
And that's your time there, sir. Thank you. All right, and if you think I'm rude, sorry. We're on a very strict time schedule tonight, so we want to make sure we get everything in. Next candidate answering question will be Meda DeWitt. So if you'll pass the microphone forward to her right there. There you go. And take it away.
Thank you. Meda.
Meda, I apologize.
It's okay. A measurable action out of 4 years. Right now, we have outward migration predominantly of skilled labor and our families and our youth. So the measurable qualitative data would be, and quantitative data would be that our children not only are staying in the state, that they're actually coming back to the state. And to be able to do that is going to require a lot of work. We are going to have to address the cost of living. And the cost of living is not only the fuel in your vehicles, but also the heating fuel, the electricity, the foods and goods, and other services. Right now, we ship in 95% of our food and goods, and we're paying premium prices. Most of our oil and gas is exported and not refined here for Alaskans. So looking at those base problems like safety, we have to address our safety, domestic violence and crime, no more catch and release, bringing down housing costs by increasing the amount of housing available and affordable housing. Investing in our education for our children so that they have actual good education and good opportunities with jobs, and supporting manufacturing and industry here in the state, diversifying our economy. All of those things plus more, we have to work together as a group and, as we've heard, unify our legislative bodies and our governance.
Thank you very much. All right, and I'm going to have you all pass this down toward Mrs. DeVries down there. Our next answer will come from Edna DeVries. Again, the question is, if you are elected governor, what will be the one measurable accomplishment you want Alaskans to point to 4 years from now and say, that changed the future of our state?
Thank you. And thank you for having this, and thank you for inviting us. Anyway, I agree with all, because as all of you know, all of those things are things that we face. But I think the one most important thing that we can do is the citizens have to realize and want to realize, and they want to be a solution to these problems. And so in 4 years, when I'm done, I want them to be able to say, she listened to us, she cared for us, and then she took actions, and our state is much better because of that, and we are happy that we stayed in Alaska.
Thank you very much, Ms. DeVries. And lastly, over to Ms. Shelley Hughes. And then we'll move on to the second question, and we'll go in reverse order, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and a shout out to my former colleague and friend, Mayor Machicki, and his lovely wife, Erin. Brain and brawn drain is why I stepped up to run. This state was an amazing place 50 years ago. You could do and become anything you wanted when I first came to the state. And I lived in every single region, including here in the Kenai Peninsula over in Seward. So that is key. One candidate already mentioned that. But to get there, other measurable results are that we actually will stop just talking about low-cost energy, but we'll actually achieve it through a portfolio. Natural gas, essential, but hydro, measurable results is that we'll have more hydro projects. That's a very reliable, and hopefully geothermal will pan out. Small modular reactors will be available in our rural areas. Another measurable is getting private lands into Alaskan hands. That's a way for a household, a family, an individual to build prosperity and wealth. Thirdly, we're going to have a better infrastructure infrastructure in general, both the workforce and education. I want to see our education outcomes increase. That is so essential. Our next generation needs to be prepared to take this state on after we're gone. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And you can just go ahead and hang on to the mic because we're going to start now with the second question for the forum, and we'll work our way from you and backwards. So the second question of tonight's forum is Alaska spends significant public dollars on education, yet student outcomes remain a concern. The state legislature increased the base student allocation by $700 in 2025. Do you support that increase? Why or why not?
Thank you for the question. My heart is for the children right now, and our schools are struggling. Overall in our state, only 30% of our kids are on grade level, and the rest are below. We have schools where only 10% of our kids are on grade level. We have to fix that, and you can hear the passion in my voice and in my heart, because that is the legacy we need to leave behind. It's very important the money that the schools get, including that increase just mentioned, is used in a way that will increase those outcomes, instructional strategies that work. And I authored the READS Act bill that was turned into a committee bill and then turned into a governor's bill. That is starting to work. One of my last pieces of business before leaving the legislature was to introduce a math act, and that's next. When I hear college professors say that even the kids who are on a university trajectory can't do basic math and read, we have to make sure the money is going where it works. And I know right now, with our population decline and working families leaving, we have fewer children. It makes it really, really tough for our districts. And I also want to say one thing, that the school choice, we should not fear that, because for some children that's going to make sense. It will not decimate the neighborhood schools. We're going to need them, but we need to make sure they're doing a better job for our children.
Thank you. And for those on the radio, that was Shelley Hughes speaking, and we're going to go now over to Edna DeVries. Edna, same question to you. Alaska spends significant public dollars on education, yet student outcomes remain a concern. The state legislature increased the base student allocation by $700 in 2025. Do you support that increase? Why or why not?
In the Matsu Borough, we have education by choice. Parents, we have charter schools, lots of homeschools, etc. I believe that is a part of what parents want, and I believe that's what the children want. But to me, what has happened with the Department of Education within our state is that it's needed repairs, and they've slapped something on top of that, and then it needs something over here, and they slap something on top of that, and now we have this much requirements regarding, and none of it is working. It's not getting to the students and into the classrooms. I taught 15 years post-secondary education in this state. I can tell you that students are coming that cannot read or write because they have been promoted just to get them out of the school system. And all of that needs to change.
Thank you, Ms. Edna DeVries. All right, and now if you don't mind, please work the mic back this way to former Governor Bill Walker, and he will answer that question as well. Do you need me to repeat the question for you?
No.
You're good? Okay, take it away.
You know, I'm a product of the Alaska public school system from kindergarten through high school graduation. You know, I'm a big fan of career and technical education, and I was introduced to that actually for the first time in Matsu Career and Technical Center. If you haven't been through that school, you go through it. It is amazing. I know you have that on the peninsula. I know there's one in Kotzebue. I know there's one in Nome, but it is sometimes, you know, Alaska has the highest truancy rate in the nation and some of the lowest scores. And I said to an educator the other day, maybe we have the wrong things on the menu. You know, if we had a restaurant and the people only ate half their meal and then left, maybe then there wasn't very good food. So maybe we need more things on the menu that they can relate to. And that career and technical education, I know I'm in your land over there when I'm saying this, Adam, but it is, they're on fire in that school. I mean, their graduation rate is like 99%. And the 1% that doesn't, their family moved and they didn't find someone to live with in the valley so they could finish up. I mean, they do their own maintenance. It's an amazing school. I think we need to have more. Sometimes career and technical education is used as sort of a shiny object to get more money, and then the school doesn't actually use it for that purpose. And I think it's a mandate that we do that. We need to start training people now in junior high for the pipeline. We need to make sure we have the workforce development training before they get out of school. So I think we sometimes have the wrong things on the menu, and we need to change that.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. And if you'll hand the mic forward to Mrs. Meda DeWitt, she'll answer the question for us. And again, for those of you listening on the radio, the candidates currently answering the question, Alaska spends significant public dollars on education, yet student outcomes remain a concern. The state legislature has increased the base student allocation by $700. That was in 2025. And to the candidate, do you support that increase? Why or why not?
Thank you. That increase wasn't enough. It didn't even keep up with inflation, and that's a big issue. We see schools closing across the state, and we have over 40,000 children with chronic absenteeism. So when we're looking at our education, we have a false dichotomy of choosing between the permanent fund and education. They're both guaranteed in the Constitution. And that's due to the people and our children. We are doing them a disservice. So the READS Act, which is wonderful, it actually needs to be properly funded. And Juneau should not have the last say and overseer of all the school districts. They should be a collaborator and power sharing with the school districts. Along with that, there's ways that we can support our children. We can provide free breakfast and lunch, and we can actually teach kids how to grow food, process food, and preserve it. You know, have you ever seen a kid who's grown their own vegetable? They love it. It's like magic. And they love to share it with their families. And we have food insecurity issues here in the state. Bringing back sports, bringing back arts, bringing back music, to get them into the school and the things that they love, then paired with smaller teacher ratios for reading and math and hard sciences. It is going to take a work of all of us together to get this done, but we can do it, and it's mandated in the Constitution, and it is your right and our children's right to be treated as human beings. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your answer, Ms. DeWitt. And over to Matt Heilala, same question to you, sir. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So again, I'm a product of the public school system here in Kenai and in Soldotna. And schooling was a bit different in the 1970s and 80s. You know, I had no idea what the political persuasion ideology of my teacher was. And the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of families was the pandemic and that periscope into the school where they saw the woke mind virus fully in action and raging across the culture in our schools. And that was not in every community school, but in many of them. And our most important natural resource is our child, our children, right? I was raised here, we raised our kids here, raising grandkids here. They need to have an opportunity to become an educated child. We cannot trap parents in schools they don't trust. I believe in school choice. I think funding, we have plenty of funding in our schools. If you look at it statistically, it's just needing to be allocated more correctly to the teachers and away from administrators. Our teachers, frankly, need a 15 to 30% pay raise, but that's not going to come in a state that is suffering economically. Economic expansion and prosperity is where we get there. We need to prioritize parent and family choice. The unions, sadly, have forgotten that their client is the family and the student. It's not necessarily administrators, et cetera. So that's my position.
Thank you, Mr. Heilala. And please pass the microphone forward to Mr. Gilbert. Next candidate to answer will be Michael Gilbert. Again, Michael, the question is, Alaska spends significant public dollars on education, yet student outcomes remain a concern. The state legislature increased the base student allocation by $700 in 2025. Do you support that increase? Why or why not? Whenever you're ready.
To answer the question, yes, I fully support that. However, it should have been 100-fold. I believe that the allocation should have been more of $345,000 or even $350,000, and we should have given incentives to the teachers for higher grades. I agree with everything that Mr. Crum said. The only other thing I'd like to add to that, however, is that we need to eliminate the No Child Left Behind policy until the children can meet their peer level for reading, writing, doing math, that sort of thing. And the zero tolerance policy as well, for that pretty much goes nowhere. All it does is suspend or expel a child that may just need more intellectual development in their lives through the school system. And I believe that our school's infrastructure also needs to be repaired, especially in the rural communities, because I was out in Antioch and the school honestly looked like a shack that was just recently built. So I believe that with that being said, we also need to go back to textbook learning and things of that nature, because the AI has stunted the development of our children, in my opinion. And with that being said, I yield my time to the next candidate.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your answer, Mr. Michael Gilbert. Okay, and now, if you don't mind, please pass the microphone back there to Mr. Dave Bronson. Mr. Bronson, same question to you when you're ready.
Thank you. I never talk about education funding without talking about education outcomes. The Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education monitors 53 jurisdictions around the world. That includes Marianas, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. Of those 53 jurisdictions, Alaska ranks 51st. We're the worst. We just are, and we have to admit that. Sometimes we think we're doing great because we like our teacher and we like our principal, but the case is our kids are simply not prepared. Before we talk about that, we've got to talk about we rank number 51 in 4th grade and 8th grade reading and math. Those are key metrics that we have to fix. Mississippi did that in 2012. They saw the problem. They've got roughly 460,000 students in their public school system. They put in $15 million a year to bring in reading coaches. The reading $15 million for 460. We've got, I think, about 160,000 folks in our public school system, I think, something like that. So I'm guessing roughly $5 million to bring in reading coaches, because before you can learn, or before you can read to learn, you got to learn to read. And our kids just aren't. You can't learn math if you can't read. That's what we have to do. I support vouchers. But guess what? Some of the best educated kids in the country are in our charter schools. So why don't we repeat that over and over? So thank you very much.
Thank you. Again, for those listening on the radio, that was Dave Bronson. And if you'll pass the mic down to Mr. Adam Crum. Same question to you, and I'll repeat that again for those listening on the radio. Like I said, the question: Alaska spends significant public dollars on education, yet student outcomes remain a concern. The state legislature increased the base student allocation by $700 in 2025. Do you support that increase? Why or why not?
I'm a product of public school. I went to a K-8 school at Chapman in Anchor Point. My mom was my 4th grade teacher. That was brutal. Where we've lacked in our schools is opportunity. The things that we have to focus on is we actually need to measure outcomes and compare against. Far too little of dollars from the government go out the door and they're not measured against outcomes. Nor do you support innovation. Charter schools are fantastic. They are public schools, and a lot of them actually spend less per pupil in substandard facilities. In the Mat-Su, a lot of them are actually in facilities that were deemed not good enough for the school district. But yet their students are having tremendous outcomes. What are they doing different? Let's look at that. To me, in the near term, the most important thing for us to address to get kids interested and back in is CTE, Career and Technical Education. This is near and dear to my heart. I co-owned one of the largest post-secondary training schools in the state, training everybody from welding to truck driving to mechanics. And so when you teach somebody the dignity of work and the purpose of working with your hands, it is tremendous. So I want to pull CTE training out from the BSA, put it as a separate line item, and invest in that. By doing so, the Department of Education has more recourse. You can actually sponsor more innovation. You can see how they do this, and kids have higher outcomes. Study after study shows you do that, they have confidence, and graduation rates go through the roof, because all of a sudden, trigonometry makes sense.
Thank you very much, Adam Crum. And now, up to Mrs. McGuire. And Lisa McGuire, same question to you whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. I think I know how to do this now. Thanks for your patience. Question number 1. My running mate and I are the two moms ticket. And so to say this issue is important to us is an understatement. We're failing our children. And I think we all know that. In my opinion, the most important thing we need to do is to fix the foundation formula. It's a controversial point, but it is the heart of the matter. We need to look at elements that have been discussed here regarding our actual education. What are we training our kids for to enter a workforce to do? We need to look at the allocation by population and accept the fact that we have outmigration, and that shouldn't necessarily reflect on our kids. So that would be one of the first things I would do. Appointing a strong commissioner of education that has no ties to the NEA. With all respect, I think that that union has in many ways thwarted an ability for us to look at best practices. I would lean on things that I've done in the past. I was the chair of an outside group called the Council of State Governments West, and a president of a group called the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. And the reason I was is so that I could learn and be a part of best practices. I want to end my 15-second warning by saying, if I have a legacy to leave, besides the gas line, it would be that our fish have returned to healthy stocks.
Thank you. And that concludes our forum portion of the evening. So thank you, everyone. Right now, what I'd like you to do is go ahead and take the ballot out of your pamphlet, the one that should be denoted as how to cast your vote for, and pick one candidate, please, your favorite candidate. And then all of those ballots will be collected. Once you are done, don't get in anybody's way. Let's make sure that everybody is able to submit their ballot. And Chuck, I'm going to turn it over to you for here in just a minute as you come up here. Yes. And so what we're going to do is, as the ballots are being tallied, if you'd like to step outside, take a break, use the restroom, get a little fresh air, you're more than welcome to. Thank you.
Drum roll, please. The 5 that you selected. Oh. Meda DeWitt. Congratulations. Shelley Hughes. Congratulations. Matt Heilala. Dave Bronson. And Adam Crum. All right, a big hand for all these guys for making it this far. Okay, and now we get to the debate portion of this event. Thank you for staying and thank you for voting. And we'll turn the mic back over to Nick Sorrell and Rebecca Logans.
Thank you, Chuck. And again, thank you to everybody who is here, as Chuck said, and to our 5 final candidates. Congratulations for moving on to this portion. And again, to those of you who are listening back on the radio through KSRM 920 AM and 92.5 FM, glad to have you joining us as well. So now we will move on to the debate portion of the evening, and here's how this will go. We will alternatively ask questions, but we will, for the first few questions, each candidate will receive the same question. They'll have 60 seconds to answer. If either moderator feels that the question was not sufficiently answered, we will ask a follow-up question, or if we just do have a follow-up question to the one that was answered, they will then have 30 seconds to respond to that. So 60-second answers and then a 30-second response if necessary. If any candidate directs a portion of their answer to another candidate, as per debate rules, we will allow the candidate that the question was, or the answer was directed to, a 30-second response, and then we'll move on to the next question with the next candidate. And so with that, they'll have, like I said, 60 seconds for each answer, 30 seconds for responses, and I'll turn it over to Rebecca for our first question, and that is going to go to Shelley Hughes.
Okay, here we go. The Alaska Department of Fish and Game Commissioner Doug Vincent Lang has said bycatch does not explain the scale of Alaska's king salmon losses. First of all, do you agree? And whether you do or not, what specific action would your administration take to address declining king salmon returns to the state?
Thank you for the question. Bycatch is part of the problem, but it's definitely not the sole problem. And so looking at the water temperatures, fish habitat, there are many things that could be done, but I will tell you this. Our fish and game is like a PFD to us. Many of us live here because of that. When I first moved to Alaska, we were pretty much living off of fishing and hunting, growing our own food. And that's an important thing. So the commissioner's main thing is to manage for abundance and get out of the politics, get out of the litigation, let the Attorney General do that. Let my running mate, former retired General Blake Geddes, get on that. Fish is a very tough thing. King salmon is part of our culture, and we have to start solving it. And we have to understand it's not going to be put all our eggs in one basket. It's got to be an approach from all sides to restore the fish, and we're going to have to work hard.
Thank you. All right, next candidate, Dave Bronson.
Great. Well, Doug's a great guy. I know him personally. He has said that, but he's also said this. He says, we don't know what's causing the overall fish decline in this state or the king salmon decline, but he says all we know is it's not trawling. To me, that seems a little bit simplistic. I don't think that's right. For too long, sport fishermen, subsistence fishermen, and personal use fishermen have been having their catches reduced, having their fishing seasons limited, and yet the large factory trawlers who leave relatively little money in our state, they keep taking their money back to Seattle and Tacoma, and they're not restricted. And that's got to change. If we're going to wind this fishery down, we're going to do it together, and they've got to share in this. The governor swears an oath to the Constitution, which includes Article 8, Sections 2, 3, and 4. Like Shelley says, you will manage for abundance, you will manage for the people, and you will manage for sustainability. That's what I will do. I've made the commitment to end trawling within the 3-mile jurisdiction that is under the governor's authority.
Thank you. And next, Matt Heilala.
Nice. So I grew up in the Kenai River. I come from the commercial fishery also, right? I was a skipper in Bristol Bay from the time I was 18 till I was 25. And I've spent a lot of time studying this topic. The trawling industry, that kind of gear is the only gear you can capture the bounty that is in the ocean, that the human mind has a really difficult time grasping. Billions and billions of pounds of pollock, okay? The world needs this product, the country needs this product. It cross-subsidizes all of the other fisheries. It's critically important. Bans are foolish right now because we don't know enough. We know for sure it's going to harm families, and it's going to harm all of our fishery. If you lose the commercial fishery, you lose the runs because that's how you manage the runs, is through the commercial fishery. I know that through my study, through my background, and we need leaders that are not running with the crowd, getting in bed with the people that want to shut down industry in Alaska. They're the same people.
And that's time. Thank you. And this next question, or the question now, goes to Adam Crum.
And as we repeat the question for our listeners in the radio, the question is, the Alaska Department of Fish and Game Commissioner Doug Vincent Lang has said bycatch does not explain the scale of Alaska's king salmon losses. First, do you agree? And whether you do or not, what specific action would your administration take to address declining king salmon returns in the state? Adam Crum.
I see you guys like to take the light and easy questions here. I would agree that bycatch is not the end-all be-all. But I also think that families have already felt the pain. For 7 years, the Yukon River has been shut down for king salmon fishing. We have generations of culture that is being erased there. I grew up in Anchor Point, fished on the Anchor River. We haven't had a substantial king salmon run there in over 20 years. The pain has already been felt. But we actually, amongst our abundance principle, I also believe we actually have to share the abundance. We also have to share the pain. And we haven't done that equally amongst parties. We have to do the things that we can control. I have also said on the record that I would also sign a bill that actually restricted trawling within state waters. Because you can't go to the federal government and those fishery councils and demand change unless you are willing to address it in your own backyard. So Alaska, we have got to actually do some of the things we can. There's a lot we don't know about the ocean, but I do know that salmon is important. And Alaska is known for its salmon, not its fish sticks.
Thank you, Adam. And lastly, to Ms. Meda DeWitt.
Thank you very much. Man, the juiciest political topic of the century, our salmon, especially king salmon. It is a multiple segment issue that we have to address. Yes, trawling is part of it. But not all trawling is the same. So the bycatch, many of us were in Unalaska and got to see their process and how they're regulating and reducing and working to eliminate bycatch completely. But what we've also found when we dig into the issue is in the Prince William Sound, so a lot of these salmon, they'll travel down to the shelf in the Pacific Ocean and feed and then travel back up. So there are trawlers who have rollers who scrape the bottom of the ocean in the Prince William Sound, and it's killing the availability for nutrients. So it's not just that they're pulling fish up, it's that the habitat is actually being destroyed in the ocean floor. So working with the governor can't shut down all trawling, but the governor does have things that they can do.
And that's time. Thank you.
Really fast.
All right. Thank you, candidates. The next question. If faced with a budget shortfall, what programs or spending would you be willing to reduce, and what would you refuse to cut? We'll start with Ms. Meda DeWitt. I'll repeat that question one more time. If faced with a budget shortfall, what programs or spending would you be willing to reduce, and what would you refuse to cut? Whenever you're ready.
I would absolutely cut the corporate welfare and the money that we're giving away to oil and gas development, because that money actually belongs to the people. It is maximum development for the people, and that means that the taxes and royalties have to come into the coffer for the people. I absolutely would not cut education and the things that we need to take care of our children and to make sure that they have safe lives, the abundant lives, and that they are cared for, and that we have adequate health care. And we also need to bring in VPSOs into the community. We have 85 communities have no safety officers whatsoever. So public health and safety are a mandate with education. Giving away money to outside billionaires, it's off the table, no problem.
Thank you, Ms. DeWitt. Next, down to Adam Crum. Same question to you. If faced with a budget shortfall, what programs or spending would you be willing to reduce, and what would you refuse to cut? Whenever you're ready.
Give me a second. All right, it's stable. Okay. Again, you guys with the fun questions, just right out the gate. So in Alaska, we could actually reduce the 13 smallest agencies. That's only $1.3 billion. So there's not a lot of room to cut. Governor Dunleavy in 2019 put forward an austere budget, cutting everybody's sacred cow. Do you know who was upset? Everybody. And so we actually have to take a very real, honest look about where we're at if we face such a budget deficit. What we do know is that fraud, waste, and abuse within the health department is about 20 to 30%. I know because I oversaw that. The problem was we could not address that because during COVID, the federal government expanded enhanced eligibility requirements for all public benefits programs in continuous enrollment, and you could not actually clear the rolls. So that is stuff that we can actually address. And the thing that I would absolutely not cut would actually be transportation in our STIP. It is a 90-10 match. That means for one dime, we get 90 cents from the feds. We have to fix our roads.
Thank you. And now from Mr. Crum over to Matt Heilala.
So we will be facing a budgetary shortfall. We have been for many years. And that's because we've lost sight of the vision of prosperity and how we get there. As a manager in business, you first have to gain information. So from day one, it's going to be a severe fiscal transparency effort. And that's where you gain some insight. The most target-rich environment for cuts, because you're going to find waste and abuse, possibly fraud, is within Medicaid. The Medicaid expansion was a big, unsustainable fiasco. The major problem. Huge amount of fraud, not just from the provider side, but all kinds of things. Its tendrils go deep. So that's where I would suspect I would find immediate cost savings there. Public safety and the STIP, the capital expenditure projects, because that's where our economic expansion is going to be derived, is transportation infrastructure and capital expenditures.
Thank you, Matt. And then over to Mr. Dave Bronson. I'll repeat the question again for those listening on the radio. If faced with a budget shortfall, what programs or spending would you be willing to reduce, and what would you refuse to cut?
Well, first off, I wouldn't cut those things that we are constitutionally required to fund, which is education included in public safety, the National Guard, those kinds of things. We're required management of our fisheries. We have to do that. A lot of the folks up here are right. If you look at our budget right now, there's not much left to cut. And coming from a fiscal conservative, as a mayor who cut a lot of budgets in the, I provided 3 flat budgets in the city of Anchorage, and this is tough. You've got to audit. And I audited all of our departments. You got to find out where the waste is before you talk about what you're going to cut. And there is fraud, especially in the homeless industry. There is fraud in Medicaid. We know that. That's what we got to get to. So for me to sit there and say what I'm going to cut, I'm not going to say that. I will tell you what I'm not going to cut, and those are the things that the Constitution compels us to fund.
Just to follow up there, Mr. Bronson, I hear you saying that there are things that you would not cut. Are there things that you would consider reducing? So not necessarily cutting.
If you're talking public education, we're going to have this ongoing debate about the BSA forever. It's the debate coming now is BSA possibly against a defined benefit plan. BSA versus something other things. At the end of the day, you can't give these answers until you know where the money is and where it isn't. I'll give you an example. So.
All right. Okay, and then lastly, Ms. Hughes, on to you. Shelley Hughes, next question or next answer.
We are going to showcase in my administration the spending that is mandatory versus discretionary. So you as the public will understand that. The legislature will switch that out, but it's important for you to know. We'll establish a sunset audit commission made up of people from the private sector who know how to run a lean, mean machine. But instead of a report that collects dust on a shelf, their recommendations will go into a piece of legislation which must go through the legislature if that agency is going to stay. If the legislature doesn't take it up, it will sunset. But in that audit, they will be looking for fraud, waste, and abuse, which is estimated in our state based on our overall budget somewhere between $500 million and $1.5 billion. There are things that we can cut. The slush fund of unfilled position is an example. All the furniture spending that happens at the end of the fiscal year, we're the highest place in the nation buying furniture. Use it or lose it. We're going to change that.
And that's time.
Okay, next question. And who are we starting with?
Ms. Hughes.
Oh, Ms. Hughes, that's right. Okay. So the proposed Alaska LNG project has been at the forefront of state politics for months now. There is no question that a gas line would be an economic boon for Alaska, but the questions have centered on the taxation of project developers and a deal that benefits the state. Can you name any specific developer terms for this project that, if you were governor, you would deem unacceptable?
I would deem unacceptable virtually doubling what is needed in order to make it economic. So initially it was to reduce, I believe it was about $800 million during the construction phase, and then the legislators who are resisting and slowing this down, they wanted to add and get another $800 million. So that's doubling it. That is not acceptable. We have to make this work, and if it doesn't work, and I will say, we're in a time crunch because of the pipelines being built to the British Columbia shore. And if we don't get it built quick, they'll beat us out. But you know what? There are projects on the North Slope where the oil can be put on tankers directly. There are 2 companies already looking at that, and they already have the investment lined up. They just need the permits. It will complement, won't compete, and we need to look at that as well. And natural gas is key to achieving low-cost energy, and I would be in their offices every day talking to them. That's what I would do.
All right. Oh, and next to Dave Bronson.
Well, I think it's pretty clear here is that the natural gas pipeline has got to be built. It's absolutely critical to our economy and to our future, to getting our kids to come back to this state. But even as we do that, we've got to make sure we don't sign agreements that exclude the basin, cook inlet natural gas. There's 19 trillion out there. There's 3 trillion cubic feet that are known. We've in the meantime, we've got to keep drilling out there and incentivizing drilling. And if we keep the producers from the basin from selling to NSTAR, we've created a disaster for ourselves. So think of this. We build a great big long gas line across Alaska, and I'm always thinking as a military man, what is the threat to that? And with the drone technology in this day and age, you could take, with 2 drones, you could take out a gas line and an oil pipeline in one day. And we need that Cook Inlet natural gas indefinitely to keep supplying us. Otherwise, in the winter, we could be in really big trouble.
All right. And now, Matt Heilala.
And let's just repeat the question, so it's a long question. The proposed Alaska LNG project has been at the forefront of state politics for months now. There is no question that gas line would be an economic boon for Alaska, but questions have centered on the taxation of project developers and a deal that benefits the state. Can you name any specific developer terms for the project that if you were governor, you would deem unacceptable?
So right now, I am unaware of any particularly credible items that are absolutely off the table that are being proposed by the developer. As a lifelong negotiator in business, you have to be very cautious to make declarations of what you're willing or not willing to negotiate on. I think that this project is so important for the prosperity of Alaska that I love the statement that cheap and abundant energy is the fertile soil for the seeds of industry. And that's very true. At upfront, the cost of gas may be a little higher than other sources, but if you're looking at the static analysis, but the reality is when you have cheap, abundant energy, industry arrives, you have more buyers, that cost of energy goes down. A lot of great things happen when you can provide cheap and abundant energy. Sometimes there's no exact answers, there's just compromises in negotiation.
Just a quick follow-up on that. Can you identify perhaps a point at which, if you were the governor during negotiations, that you would say, this is too much and I think we need to walk away? We'll give you 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would say that in particular what raises my antenna would be the obligation of the state to buy out the developer if it becomes uneconomic or they go into default, et cetera, the project starts to fail, that we have an disequitable obligation to buy them out at any kind of a sweetheart deal.
Thank you. All right. And then over to Adam Crum, same question.
To specifically answer it about what terms are unacceptable, it's that. That is that the state owes nothing if the project developer walks away. We've got over $1 billion invested in this between project permitting and other dollars. That money's been spent. It is our gas. On the other side, though, as a business owner, as I've been in Wall Street, I have cut deals, I've negotiated these things. It is very, very important that all Alaskans understand that gas is not oil. You can make natural gas from oil. There's so much in it. The value of that is completely different. When you heard some complaints from the legislatures, we're going to lose $8 billion over 30 years. The total amount collected from oil in last fiscal year to all property tax, all royalties, everything was over $4 billion. So the value proposition we're talking about is not entirely the same. We need the gas to keep the lights on, to innovate and innovate our entire economy. So the most important thing is for us to find a way to build the line, or we're arguing about a piece of pie that does not exist. And so it doesn't matter what we get out of that. We have to make sure the line gets built so we're serving you as Alaskans.
And then Meda DeWitt. And Rebecca, the question just one more time for Meda and for those listening.
Absolutely. The proposed Alaska LNG project has been at the forefront of state politics for months now. There is no question that a gas line would be an economic boon for Alaska, but questions have centered on the taxation of project developers and a deal that benefits the state. Can you name any specific developer term for this project that, if you were governor, you would deem unacceptable?
Yes, thank you. So right now, there's a battle going on in Juneau, and there's people who are fighting the giveaway. Right now, the plan that was presented has no taxation on that pipeline. And in our Constitution, it's maximum benefit for Alaskans. That's the guarantee. So that means that it's required to bring money in into the coffers to distribute because you have ownership of and mineral rights that you've given to the state to then create and develop. Also, that plan prioritized exportation over Alaskans, and that is not acceptable. Now, there is an abundant amount of natural gas up in the North Slope. They're just burning it off. It needs to be utilized, but it needs to be done in a way that makes sense and brings dollars into the state and into your pockets.
Thank you, Meda. And now the fourth question. And so, again, we'll just go back in reverse order. So, Meda, you will be answering this question first. And then after that, for everybody, it would be Adam Crum, and then Matt Heilala, Dave Bronson, and then Shelley Hughes. So the next question, and Meda, again, this will start with you. Alaska has experienced net outmigration for 13 consecutive years, while its working age population has begun to decline. Do you consider that a crisis? And what policies would you pursue to help young workers and families build permanent lives here?
It is a crisis. As a business owner, my sweetheart is also a business owner. We have a lack of skilled labor in the state. A lot of people who could leave did leave to other places. One, like we talked about earlier, cost of living has to be addressed. Accessible housing that's healthy and affordable has to be addressed. We also have to address crime rates in our state. We have some of the worst crime rates. And if people can take their kids to get better education other places, they're doing it. We also did a disservice to our public service employees. We do not have a pension for our policemen, our public health nurses, our teachers. We have to support our public servants that actually keep our state running and keep it a community where people want to live and want to raise their family and want to continue forward. We are in a crisis with outward migration. Let's fix it.
Thank you. And now over to Adam Crum. And I'll repeat the question again. It was kind of a mouthful. Alaska has experienced net outmigration. We good? We good? Okay. Alaska has experienced net outmigration for 13 consecutive years, while its working age population has begun to decline. Do you consider that a crisis? And what policies would you pursue to help young workers and families build permanent lives here?
Yes, that's a crisis. We need to keep our kids here. If we don't have our kids, we don't have a workforce. That means that for our aging population, it is much more difficult to age in place. Now, everything else gets more and more expensive. Specific things that we can actually lean towards would actually be helping with housing. There would be programs that we need the legislature to approve, including things. If you go to a trade school or college in Alaska, you can actually have some of your debt paid for, or you have access to cheaper home loans through the Alaska Housing Finance Corporation. The more likely they are actually to come up here, that's a magnet, to attend classes and training in Alaska, but also to build their home here. Simultaneously, we're going to address education. Like I said earlier, we're going to train our workers through CTE. We're going to give them the skills of the future. AI is here. It is coming. It is going to wipe out a lot of white-collar jobs. Let's work with our hands and give them the dignity of work and take advantage of all of these jobs that we have in oil, in gas, in mining, and construction.
Thank you. And now from Adam over to Matt Heilala. Same question, sir, whenever you're ready.
Yes, absolutely. It's a crisis. When you're losing your kids, you lose your community. If you don't have an economy, you don't have a community. This is all economic. The gravest danger is we can look at the symptoms of a disease, housing, affordability, all these things. It's a consequence of the primary disease of a lack of the heart of the explorer and the will to come together to get our economy going. We've got to get back to a prosperous time like it was 40 years ago when I was a kid, when there was all kinds of opportunities for high-paid work. That's what it's about. And the grave danger is that we think it's government's job. These opportunities are created in the private sector. The government's obligation is to create a feasible, inviting environment to industry. Thus, that creates the jobs, and it makes a more inviting environment sustainable for our kids, and then the outmigration problem is solved.
Thank you. And now to Mr. Dave Bronson. Same question. I'll repeat it one more time for the listeners on the radio. Alaska has experienced net outmigration for 13 consecutive years, while its working age population has begun to decline. Do you consider that a crisis, and what policies would you pursue to help young workers and families build permanent lives here?
Well, it most certainly is a crisis, and I dealt with it extensively in the city of Anchorage, which population is declining greater than the population is statewide. Let me give an anecdote, a little story here. I had a corporation came up to me, major corporation, I won't name it, you'll all know it. They says, we got 47 executive positions, high six-figure jobs that are coming to Anchorage. I talked to him a few months later. I says, did they come up? And he says, no, all but 2 refused. And I says, well, what's going on? They said the quality of education. Our people came up, they looked at the quality of education in the Anchorage area, and they says, we're not putting our kids in it. So let's go back now to the very first question an hour ago is, what is the first thing that you're going to do? You can't do one thing, you got to do everything. You can't tax the oil companies that pay us. You can't abuse them the way we've been abusing Hillcorp. You just can't. We've got to make our education system better. Every mayor in this room understands you got about 10 or 12 things going on at one time that are big, and this is what's causing the problem.
Thank you. And finally, same question to you, Ms. Shelley Hughes.
Thank you. This is the very issue that tipped the scale for me to run. And when I went to my family and my husband and I said, the state needs my skill set, because in 10 years, fast forward, you don't have a state, you don't have a society if our young working families are leaving. It's an affordability crisis, and that is how I built the whole foundation of my platform. Look at my website. It is more comprehensive than any other candidate, because I want feasible steps, an action plan that you can see that will start solving the decades-old problems that have been around, achieving low-cost energy through a portfolio discussed earlier, getting lands into private hands, both state lands and federal lands, and building the infrastructure that we need in order to support the economy. That's what we have to do, and we don't have any time to waste. We've got to put a Republican forward who actually can win and get to work.
Thank you. All right, the next question.
Well, our next question has been answered by a lot of the comments that we just heard, so I'm going to suggest that we move on to the candidate-specific questions and then come back after those if we have time to have other questions.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so the first question is going to be for...
I'll just quickly specify that this next round of questions for everybody, while the candidates have received the same question through each round here, these will be candidate-specific questions. So each candidate will have a different question, and it will be specific to them as a candidate. Go ahead.
Okay, so since we just ended with Shelley, we will start with her. You have extensive experience in the legislature, but the governor's role requires managing state agencies, executing policy, and making decisions with limited time and information. What experiences have best prepared you to lead the executive branch, and how would your leadership style differ from your approach as a legislator?
Thank you. It's a really good question. So I spent more than 30 years in the private sector and raising a family, so I have a broad array of organization management skills in my work for major projects. So I bring that to the table, but I'm going to take this opportunity also to highlight my running mate, retired General Blake Geddes, Air Force. He's overqualified. He could run for governor. And out of all the running mates, he's the most qualified. And if another candidate had him, I'd be jealous. So part of what I'm going to do, Rebecca, is with all the work that we have, I'm going to use my lieutenant governor in a way that has not happened since statehood. He is going to be given some of the tasks to lead on his own, and I'm fine with sharing the limelight with him because it's important that we have the leadership in order. There's many things to tackle, and with his help, we'll be able to do a lot more. It'll be a 2-for-1. You're going to have 2 people working for you.
And that's your time. Apology. Thank you. All right. And now to Mr. Dave Bronson. Your question. As mayor of Anchorage, your administration had a highly contentious relationship with the Anchorage Assembly. Critics say that conflict made it harder to govern effectively. What would you do differently as governor to build productive relationships with a legislature that may not always share your views?
Well, I had a 9-3 majority against me, and I'm sorry, but the 9-3 majority aren't the majority that's there now. These were different people, and they were quite radical, quite woke and quite, I would say, confrontational. I'm attacked by the right from my time as mayor for not fighting enough. I'm attacked by the left for fighting too much. I sued them once and won. That's because they tried to take executive privilege away. But at the end of the day, we got a lot of things done. I got the largest appropriation in the history of the state for the Port of Alaska, the Don Young Port of Alaska. We got that done. We got a lot of things done, especially in the area of homelessness. I look forward to working in a legislature in Juneau that's roughly 50-50 Republican and Democrat. That's a dream come true for me from what I put up with for 3 years. I'm not going to compromise my conservative principles. I'm going to fight where needed, but I'm going to go down there and work with people, and I am going to work across the aisle. I'm not the guy that's going to scream at people.
Thank you. And now Matt Heilala.
Okay. Matt, you have positioned yourself as an outsider who can change the way government operates. What is one thing you believe Alaska's political establishment has gotten wrong, and what would you do differently?
Well, number one, most important is I, as governor, will be present in person. That's critically important, and that gives you an opportunity to create and maintain relationships. And then you can become more persuasive. So being present in person, creating and maintaining relationships. And you have to engage. Very interesting. One of the most controversial, contentious segments of our state right now is education. And the Alaska Superintendents Association had a forum. We were all invited. And a lot of the Republicans decided, you know what? I'm not going to get their vote. You know, we have an obligation to engage. Lesil, McGuire, and I were the only ones among this contingency that were down there. You have to engage. And you know what? I must say, they were very inviting. I even told them that public pensions were a big disaster. I explained it to them. I said 401ks are where it's at. It's greater mobility, more money in the pocket of retirees without all the obligations. Engagement.
Thank you. And now over to Mr. Adam Crum. Got your mic? Okay. And your question is, you have helped manage Alaska's finances during some of the state's most challenging fiscal years. What is the single hardest decision you would be willing to make as governor? One that may disappoint some voters, but that you believe is necessary for Alaska's long-term future?
Excellent question. I've already done it. I would invest, and I would diversify the state's finances. When I was revenue commissioner, I made the decision to look at our savings account that was making less money than a high-yield checking account and said, that is not acceptable. We are failing Alaskans. And so I actually examined, did due diligence, talked with 6 of the largest firms in the world, and came up with a plan to actually diversify Alaska's finances to put it into infrastructure. Because what have we talked about all night from every candidate? What does Alaska need? It is infrastructure. And these aren't the ability to actually invest in the state. It's go make money elsewhere. But you're going to use your expertise to actually tell us, how do we make investment-grade projects in Alaska? I was at the Alaska Permanent Fund Corporation. I was the vice chair. I could not get the votes together to actually increase our risk profile because we are just a little too tentative right there. Because the reality is we are the richest poor state you could ever imagine. We have all the money in the bank, but our cash flow is iffy. Well, right now, let's increase our cash flow via investments and risk.
Thank you. And Meda DeWitt.
Oh, I feel like I'm being picked on.
Thank you. Okay, Meda, you became well known for leading the effort to recall Governor Dunleavy. Some Alaskans saw that as necessary accountability, while others viewed it as a divisive political effort. What did you learn from that experience, and how would you unite a state with such differing viewpoints?
Thank you. Yeah, I was the statewide organizer and grassroots organizing in the beginning. But what happened was actually it was a coalition of people that came together. It was a coalition of people across the spectrum in different political parties. And we did things that no other movement has done. It was the largest grassroots movement in the history of the state of Alaska. Alaskans were the ones collecting signatures. When you see these other ballots, they pay people to collect signatures. So these were collected by the people standing up to protect their homes from the first budget cuts. If anybody remembers how bad that was, it was absolutely terrible. We have seen an austerity plan since then, but we made our stand and said that we will not tolerate that other kind of behavior in that extreme. So it does take effort to work with people across aisles and actually listen and get things done. I have a proven track record of being able to do that. And we also ended it because it was the best thing to do with COVID.
Thank you. Well, for a moment here, I'll just take a second to say, Rebecca and I were meeting before the event today, and we were trying to narrow down a vast list of questions that we had put together because our biggest fear was that we would run out of time and that we wouldn't be able to ask the questions that we wanted to ask. So we tried to narrow that list down, and I want to thank these candidates not only for being eloquent, but also for being kind and respectful to one another. We had made room and time for people pointing some fingers here and there. You always have to anticipate that when you're dealing with a political debate. But it has been very civil up here, and as a result, we have a lot of time for more questions. And so this is going to give Rebecca and I an opportunity to dive into that list that we kind of had to pare down. And so we'll kind of just go back and forth, and we'll, in that same order, we'll start with you, Meda, and we'll work our way back through. And we'll just ask questions that we actually kind of eliminated from the list. So I'm very happy that we get to ask some of these. And I'll go ahead and I'll start, Rebecca. And the question that I would like to ask Meda, Alaska already has a division of agriculture. Governor Dunleavy proposed creating a cabinet-level Department of Agriculture, but the legislature rejected it, and later a Superior Court judge ruled his executive order to create one unlawful. Does Alaska agriculture need its own department, or should funding and authority be strengthened within the existing structure? Please explain the practical benefit.
How do you mess up a Department of Agriculture? I mean, come on. Sorry, that's a pet peeve of mine. So Alaska, as you may know, is 20% of the United States landmass. We also have a rapidly changing climate. If you've been here for any amount of time, you know that our growing season has extended by 2 months. In the 1950s, Alaska had the majority of the food produced or caught or hunted or grown or gathered here. And we're very self-sufficient. As I said earlier, right now we ship in 95% of our food and goods. We are not as independent as we believe ourselves to be. So we do need to actually put money into agriculture and work with the legislatures to create the best vehicle possible and also support the food production that already exists in the state and create industry and mom and pops and their own businesses. Again, creating economics that stay here in the state. Thank you.
Rebecca, I'll turn it over here. I'll let you kind of make the decision. Do you want to just continue this question on through the rest, or would you like to ask a different one?
I think we should let everybody answer that question.
Okay. All right, let's continue that question on.
I'm not giving up the microphone.
Adam, I'll rephrase it again because it was a lengthy question. Alaska already has a division of agriculture. Governor Dunleavy proposed creating a cabinet-level Department of Agriculture, but the legislature rejected it, and later a Superior Court judge ruled his executive order to create one unlawful. Does Alaska agriculture need its own department, or should funding and authority be strengthened within the existing structure? Explain the practical benefit.
Absolutely, we need a Department of Agriculture. There is a misnomer out there that growing government is bad. It is, but also bad governance that is unwieldy is costly. It wastes money, and there's opportunity cost in that. By not having a Department of Agriculture that we can move over the Division of Forestry as well, we are leaving money on the table with the USDA. There are specific grants and time and focus that is out there for farmers, for veterans programs to get into farming, for education programs, money that is available to us. We're the only state in the country without a Department of Agriculture. I was in the governor's office during COVID when we got a call from Governor of Washington and said, I'm going to shut down Pier 5. And that is where all of our goods come from. That was a terrifying moment to realize we absolutely need to focus. How do we build this out? How do we strengthen what we have? And by actually moving forestry, you can get time and attention through focused sales, actually make money off our trees, and develop more ag land over time.
Thank you. And over to you, Mr. Matt Heilala. Same question, sir.
Yeah. So I think most of us agree that government is not right-sized. I think, like any organization, organizational entropy and bloat is what's occurred dramatically in government. So, I hear a lot of candidates talking about, hey, I'm going to divide this department into 2 departments, we are not adding things. We're going to work with what we have. My ethos is elegance is simplicity. By increasing the population head in government through divisions, departments, you're increasing noise. We're looking for signal. We want clarity and simplicity. So there's a lot of opportunity. I am happy that the fishermen are now eligible for a lot of loans and things, opportunities that farmers are now nationally here in Alaska. So that's a great benefit, but creating another department is not a good plan.
Thank you.
I think we'll let Adam have a 30-second.
It was addressed.
Yeah.
Since there,
but can I just make a statement?
Yes, absolutely.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
This does not mean adding positions. This means promoting positions. If you actually have hired positions there, it is less time and focus. There's an adage in business. If you want to change something, measure it. We also have to put in the time and focus and make this a cabinet level. Just pull those divisions out and you elevate into commissioner level the positions that are already there. It's not adding new government. It's adding specific lines of authority.
Thank you. And now, same question to you, Mr. Dave Bronson. Would you like me to repeat that one?
Nah, I got it.
Okay.
As an agricultural economics major from the University of Wisconsin, I have a little bit of understanding this. The short answer is every time you have a problem in life, you don't create a new department. You just don't do that. I'm a conservative. I don't do that. That's how we got into part of this mess in the first place, is we grew government. We grew it under Democrats and we grew it under Republicans. This is broad-based bad decision-making. As what I will create is an office reporting directly to the governor of agriculture, because you need that single person to come in and give you advice on what the private sector farmers want to do throughout the state. The private sector is the answer to this. It's not. Now, do we support the programs in Delta Junction? Do we support the ag project west of Nenana? Certainly. But those, I just was there a week and a half ago in Nenana and took a tour of the place. That's a good operation, but it's private enterprise doing it, not government.
Thank you. And then lastly, Ms. Shelley Hughes, same question to you.
I support changing the word division to department, but not spending any more money on it. Government should be responsive to the people. I chaired the Food Security Task Force for 3 years, and I was chosen from the minority. That's very unusual. Usually you don't get to chair anything. And what I learned is in Scandinavia, the same latitude as Alaska, a little warmer ocean currents, they export 10 billion in ag products. We import 3 billion. We have room to grow with ag. I have a vision too, if you watch a video, that press conference I held 2 nights ago, we need to tip the world and start looking at Alaska from the top. We have the potential to be the transportation hub, intercontinental transportation hub. And our food products would be sought after in other countries as well as throughout the lower 48. We have potential. We need a cabinet level person.
Okay, and just to follow up on that, to be clear, you said you would keep it essentially the same, but you would just change the name from division to department?
Yes, so the director would become a cabinet member, a commissioner, so they're at the table. We have not had a DNR commissioner. They all admit, that's that Department of Natural Resources, they don't have time for forestry, they don't have time for agriculture, and now we have mariculture, another thing that we would put under that. There's economic growth opportunities with all 3 of those things, and we need to tap into it. Unless we have that person sitting at the cabinet table, it will not happen.
Thank you. All right, Rebecca.
All right. Let's just take a break from the big questions for a second and
Sure.
do some yes/no questions. Raise your hand if you've driven the Dalton Highway. Huh? Okay. Raise your hand if you've ever ignored someone in a grocery store. Ignored. Walked away from.
I was the commissioner of health.
Probably. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Next question. Do you believe that private investment is essential to Alaska's future? Why or why not? And what changes would you make to ensure Alaska is viewed as a competitive place to invest?
For a candidate?
Pardon?
Is that a question?
It's for everybody.
For everybody, okay.
Everybody, yep.
And we'll
So
start
with
Mrs.
with
Hughes. Okay.
Absolutely in essential private investment. We're not going to have state-funded boondoggles. When I talked about tipping the world, I just want to say the A2A, the Alaska Rail Project, is underway in Alberta, and we need to get on board with that. My legislative history actually worked on each side of the state. I got this successful Senate resolution for the presidential permit for that rail crossing. And then I also brokered the deal to get on the other side of the state, the state funding $175 million for the Port of Nome, and that project is underway. So we get rail, connect it to the lower 48, bring it to our rail system. We need to have the vision. We're going to be pragmatic, no boondoggles, but we need to have the conversation to start leveraging and seeing if we can get a rail all the way to Nome. And when we do that, we will become the Panama Canal of the 21st century. That is our key to a strong economy for our children and grandchildren. We're going to start working on it. It's going to be private investment.
And now to Mr. Dave Bronson. Same question. Can you repeat it for us, just for the radio listeners as well? Apologies.
Yes. Do you believe that private investment is essential to Alaska's future? Why or why not? And what changes would you make to ensure Alaska is viewed as a competitive place to invest?
Well, right now, first and foremost, Alaska is not a competitive place to invest. The DeWitt Hillcorp. We invite them in to help solve our natural gas problem in the basin here, and then 14 years later, we're checking under the seat cushions for more money, and we go after Hillcorp. And we try to change their tax status from C Corp or from S Corp essentially to C Corp. I'm just telling you, I was dealing with a solar company that looked for months at developing here, not a solar company, but a data center company. And they says after 2.5 months of due diligence is what they said was, we're not going to invest in Alaska because we think you're going to do to us what you've been doing to Hillcorp. That's private, and Hillcorp is private investment. It really is. And all we do is we jam our thumb in their eye and say, well, in the future, it may get real worse for you. We got to stabilize this. The legislature is actively hostile to capital investment in this state. It really is.
So how about actually let everybody else answer that, and then we'll have a follow-up question on it.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to that. Matt Heilala. Same question to you, sir.
Yeah, that is absolutely foundational. Prosperity occurs in the private sector. The government has a really discrete, defined role in providing an environment with cheap, abundant energy, infrastructure, roads to resources, so that industry can take risk and be a part of our state in creating opportunity for the next generation. So that's so critical. Right now, Governor Abbott, DeSantis, they were down at a symposium. They called it the Boom Belt States. The 11 states, including Texas to Florida and all those in between, they said their primary objective, or thing that is their commonality between those 11 states, is a low to no tax and stable tax environment, a speedy, reliable regulatory and permitting environment. Those are the two elements that has invited industry to create prosperity. So we have to always remind ourselves, our job as a state is to not create the prosperity, but create the environment for prosperity.
Thank you. And then I got myself mixed up here, sorry, to Adam Crum.
Yep,
Yes.
and we're going to repeat the question. Do you believe that private investment is essential to Alaska's future? Why or why not? And what changes would you make to ensure Alaska is viewed as a competitive place to invest?
I'm just going to hold it. Absolutely, the private sector is key. Government cannot replace the private sector. As I said earlier, there's two primary functions of government: protect property rights and build infrastructure the private sector can't. And what we have in Alaska is a disincentivizing investment environment. I've been on Wall Street. I've had these conversations with banks and projects, and Alaska is considered a backwater. We get in our own way more than anybody can ever imagine. We just had an opportunity to pass a single bill to address one issue, which has to do with oil and gas property tax. The House did that. The Senate got it, and they inserted layer after layer of different things which had nothing to do with the subject that mattered. We have got to figure out what we want to be as a state when we grow up. And absolutely, we need to make it a stable investment environment so people will come up here, they will actually do the money. And alas, I was on the board of Ada. I voted for roads to resources, the West Sioux Road, the Ambler Road, and those are the things that the state puts forward to move Alaska forward.
Thank you. And then over to Ms. Meda DeWitt. Same question to you.
Thank you. Shelley, I'll see your rail and upgrade to high-speed rail. We all know that the Northern Passage is opening up in the Arctic, and that there's a deep water port being put in Nome. There's potentially one going to be put in around Utqiagvik. We have to be able to transport goods across the state in a fast, efficient manner, and especially while we're building up our agriculture. A big part of this is also diversification. We need to diversify our energy sources. Right now we have communities who are going to be paying upwards of $20 a gallon for heating fuel, if they get it at all. We also have to diversify our energy into renewable and sustainable energy, and of course, a matrix of energy so that we can make sure that it's affordable. And once we have affordable energy, again, like Heilala said, we're going to have increased economic viability. We have to reduce the cost and bring in manufacturing. We have to manufacture here as well.
Thank you.
So just a quick follow-up to you on that. So you do believe that private investment is essential to the state?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And not only private investment. If anybody who's worked in community and putting together packages, there's generally partners that come to the table and we each bring dollars to the table. So in Yakutat, in the Village Corporation, the corporation brings in dollars, the state brings in dollars, private investment brings in dollars, the feds bring in dollars, and then you have a load where you work together to make it happen, where not one person has the entire risk of their own.
Okay, so then the question for everybody, the follow-up to that, which is just raise your hand.
Actually, for radio, we're going to have them say yes or no.
Oh, I was just
in
going to
turn.
tell the people on the radio that they can watch the whole, they can, the entire thing on YouTube tomorrow.
All right. Well, let's.
Yes. Okay, so the question is, would you veto a broad-based tax increase if you believed it would discourage private investment in Alaska?
Let's just start at the
Okay.
end, since it's just a yes or no.
So just say your name.
Adam, yes.
Yes.
That was Dave Bronson, yes. Shelley Hughes,
Yes.
Yes.
Meda DeWitt, and Matt
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Heilala. Okay.
there we go.
All right, so there we go. All right, so we'll do, I think we have time for one more question. Okay, and I think this is one that has probably been rattling around in a bunch of noggins out there, and so I will go ahead and I'll put this one out there. Meda, we'll start with you, since you were the last one, and we'll work our way back through. Under Alaska's top 4 system, multiple candidates with similar constituencies may reach the general election. If you advance but trail another ideologically similar candidate, what factors would determine whether you stay in the race or withdraw?
Ooh, good question. I'm independent, nonpartisan. So we have 14 Republicans, 2 independents, and 2 Democrats. They have to sort themselves out. And so as an independent coming into the race, I do have crossover in both parties, and there's 65% of Alaskans are independent, nonpartisan. So with a ranked choice 4, I would stay in, because if you like me, you're probably going to take somebody, if you're leaning Republican, maybe like Shelley, and rank her second. And you'll be able to have those votes then tabulate until we get the winner. If you're more Democratic leaning, you may choose somebody else. So I appreciate actually ranked choice voting, because your vote is not lost if your top pick doesn't get in.
Okay, and a follow-up to you, Meda, on that. Will you vote yes or no to keep or repeal ranked choice voting?
I will vote to keep ranked choice voting, and not only for itself, it also has provisions in there that makes people and campaigns disclose dark money. We have to know where the money comes from over anything.
Thank you. And Adam, on to you. Same question. Under the top 4 system in Alaska, multiple candidates with similar constituencies may reach the general election. If you advance but trail another ideologically similar candidate, what factors would determine whether you stay in the race or withdraw?
So let's just start with, I hate ranked choice voting, so you can guess how I'm going to vote. But with this system, it actually does make more sense for more conservatives to stay in it, because you actually work together. In 2022, what we had with Nick and Sarah was they fought and shot at each other for 6 months. We have actually done a very good job on this campaign of actually working together and pushing forward ideas. You actually increase the ceiling, and the math actually works out. I'm a numbers guy. Over time, it does work. I want to make sure that the seat is protected, and I think that actually the math works over time. But if we all come together and we say, you know what, we're dividing resources, that's a different conversation. But I think the best way to actually protect the seat, to get a Republican in there, is to actually keep it. And this is the last question?
Yes.
So you guys actually have a chance to vote here, too. And I just want to note that you get to write down a name. So remember, prosperity and change is on the ballot, and it's spelled Adam Crum.
Thank you. A follow-up to that, Adam, it sounds like you would be a no on keeping ranked choice voting. If that's the case, can you explain why? A no to keeping ranked choice voting. Oh, man, these ballot measures are so backwards. Yes, you would repeal ranked choice voting,
there
correct?
we go.
Okay, all right. So there we go. Yes, you would repeal it. Can you tell us why?
I have been attuned to yes to end the mess. So yes on 2 in November. And it's because it actually got rid of the simplest thing, which is one person, one vote. We turn over the results to an algorithm. You cannot hand tabulate it. That is wrong. So that is why I want to get rid of that system and go back. And there is a reason why 14 other jurisdictions last cycle voted it down, including bright blue Oregon.
There you go. And Matt Heilala, same thing to you. Do you need me to repeat the original question? Why don't you do that? Okay, I'll go ahead and I'll repeat that. Scrolling down my list of very lengthy questions until I find it again. Under Alaska's top 4 primary system, multiple candidates with similar constituencies may reach the general election. If you advance but trail another ideologically similar candidate, what factors would determine whether you stay in the race or withdraw?
Well, it's a great topic. About a year ago, I had the thought that I would immediately withdraw because we saw what happened with Sarah and Nick. But there are many other factors, such as if I have a meaningful path to victory, okay, that plays a role. If I don't have a meaningful path to victory, then I withdraw. The other is if there's an indictment, an October surprise, some kind of a shenanigan that the opposing party is going to play on the person that is 10 votes ahead of me, and they're just waiting for me to leave, that's another factor where maybe we would all be best off staying in. So there's a lot of things to consider there, and it's a sad part of this ranked choice voting thing, is that it's ripe for shenanigans because there are so many little factors like that people really hadn't thought about before.
And then same follow-up, yes or no on ballot measure 2, and why?
Yeah, yes on ballot measure 2. I think that it's pretty evident that when you have to reteach the population how to vote every campaign cycle, it's a big fail. Mm-hmm. And we call it a triumph of technology over common sense. And it's just bad. It makes no sense. And I think it's very interesting. A state that overwhelmingly votes Republican in statewide elections was the target of this, not the blue states. They're doing just fine with regular, good old-fashioned voting.
All right, thank you.
That's a good time to say pick one primary, right? A lot of people are confused about that. Pick one in the primary.
One person, one vote.
One person.
In the primary, yes. Dave Bronson, to you, the same original question. Would you like me to read it again?
No, it's good.
Okay.
There's about 150 people in here. How many people in here completely understand ranked choice voting? Raise your hand. Okay, there's your problem. We've got maybe, 12 people that understand? You can't have an election system that the people don't understand. I've got to ask questions in certain scenarios in the November election. If this and this and this happens, what goes on? And I don't know, and I probably should know that. So the ranked choice voting system is a debacle in this state. Just get rid of it, start over, go back to the old. I'm old school. I'm 68. I like it. You know, when we voted the old way, we'd go down to the fire hall, the local school, and vote. Afghanistan does this really well. They go in, look at an ID, they vote, they dip their thumb in purple ink, and they go like this, and the ink sticks for 2 weeks, and they can't vote again. And they have really good voter turnout and reliability. Afghanistan. So what's the next question?
Is there a condition in which you would withdraw if you were trailing?
Yeah, it depends on who I'm trailing, and I'm not going to make that decision until I get there. So both Adam and Matt made really good arguments as to why this is a really complex decision. The notion that I would stand up and say at this point in time, I'll absolutely get out if I'm number 2 on the Republican side, that's foolishness. So.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, to Ms. Hughes.
So my commitment is to do whatever it takes, and if that includes pulling out, to ensure we don't have a liberal governor and have a conservative. Because if we have a liberal governor, we will have taxes, we will have mass exodus, and we will have a suppression of resource development, and I'm not okay with that. And I want to say, too, since we're winding up, I can beat the Democrat I've had 6 elections. A recent one, it was a Libertarian, a Democrat, and me, and I still won by 78%. And let me say, Palmer has a city council controlled by Democrats. I can beat the Democrat. My ticket does not have skeletons. It does not have baggage. And we have high favorability. So we can beat the Democrat, and I would appreciate you walking into the voting booth, and when you do, to choose Hughes on August 18th. Thank you.
Thank you. A big round of applause, everyone, for all of our candidates here this evening. And thank you to the 5 of you up here for your participation, and to all the other candidates who are here for the forum portion. Thank you as well. So now the final part of the evening. If you'll take out that pamphlet once again, there is still a ballot remaining. This is America. We like winners, and so we want to pick a winner. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take that final ballot, and of the 5 remaining candidates, remember that is a key important part here. Of the 5 remaining candidates, we'd like you to write down the name of the candidate that is your preferred choice. Okay, so your preferred candidate after the debate portion. Then we'll have ushers going around and collecting all of those ballots. Now, hopefully they're able to count that in a relatively a quick period of time. So while they're counting that, you're free to mingle. You don't have to stay. And if you'd like to leave, you're more than welcome. If you'd like to stay and find out who is going to be voted the winner of the debate, that'll be here in just a little bit. And again, thank you to our candidates, and thank you to Rebecca Logan for coming all the way down from Anchorage to be one of our moderators. Give Rebecca a round of applause, please. And while they're collecting all those ballots, and I know you're furiously scribbling down your favorite name, I do want to take the opportunity to say thank you to the Soldotna and Kenai Chambers of Commerce for the tireless effort they put into putting this event on. It wasn't easy, and I know you guys are kind of moving around, but if you have a second, just please put your hands together for the Soldotna and Kenai Chambers of Commerce. They did a great job putting this all together. And thank you to you for attending. All right, we'll get those votes counted up, and here in just a few minutes, we will announce tonight's winner. Thank you. All right. So, in order of 5th to 1st, the votes are as such. Matt Heilala, Meda DeWitt, Dave Bronson, Shelley Hughes, and the winner of Narrowing the Fields Forum and Debate tonight is Adam Crum. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Have a great evening. And we'll see you on August 18th for the primaries.